I'm speaking to you today because of your son Shane's horrible death a few years ago, and can you just tell me what happened just after he died?
Well, we do know that the man was a Lithuanian national. He had come into the country a criminal. He had a long criminal record in his own country of aggravated burglary, handling stolen property, road traffic offences, malicious damage. He was a known heroin addict. He continued here for 6 years. He was in breach of bail 18 times when he killed. He was in bail in Carrickmacross. Separately, he was in bail in Cavan. Separately, he was in bail in Monaghan Circuit Court. Separately, he was on a suspended sentence in Peace Bond in County Louth. And he was in a suspended sentence in Northern Ireland on the evening he killed.
And can you tell me what happened subsequently? Obviously, this man had several criminal convictions previously, but at the same time, can you tell me what happened then when he went to court over Shane's death?
Well, in the days following, it was when he struck Shane, an hour before striking Shane, he'd been pulled up by the drug squad, and the car should have been seized under Section 41 of the Road Traffic Act because the driver was uninsured. And there were 3 known Lithuanian heroin addicts in the car, and the car had no NCT. The car was allowed to proceed, and I do understand from Northern Ireland the PSNI said if they had pulled him up, the only place he would be going was with them, but here they allowed him to proceed. Within an hour he had struck and killed Shane. He never braked. He left him to die alone on the road. He continued on for 5 kilometres, concealed the car in bushes, went back to his wife and said to his wife, I have her statement, he said, I'm after knocking someone down, I don't know who. He described the bike on the roof of the car and the reflector on the windscreen, and her response to that was to go to bed. Now, the next day they found him. Neighbours had found the car, and subsequently then they got him. And 2 days later he attended a special sitting in Dundalk Court, and our Garda Síochána, our guardians of the peace, said the Gardaí were not objecting to bail, yet they were aware that he had breached bail 18 times. He obviously couldn't adhere to bail, and they weren't objecting to bail. The conditions then were that he sign on 3 times a week and a fee of €500. Now that's an order by the court to sign on in the Garda station 3 times a week. We do know in the month following killing Shane, while on bail for killing, and he's still on bail in Monaghan Circuit Court, etc., that he breached bail 4 times with 4 offences: heroin, 2 thefts and a road traffic offence. But bail had no legal meaning for this man. 6 weeks after killing Shane, he's arrested in Belfast on 2 counts of theft, 2 consecutive days, and jailed in a high security prison, Maghaberry Prison. We do know that nobody missed him when he failed to sign on in the local Garda station. I think what's very concerning is when we discovered this man was in jail for heroin and theft. Our case hadn't come up, and we brought this to the attention of the DPP with evidence that he'd been outside their jurisdiction while on bail for killing, asking them to inform the court and to object to bail on the grounds that he was going back to the same Garda station that failed to monitor him. They refused to bring that to the court. To do so would highlight Garda failure. When our trial came up, this man had been driving around prior to the trial. The trial was an absolute sham because the prosecution have an obligation to bring the best evidence to the court. That didn't happen in this case. The people who were there to be Shane's voice and the voice of the people of Ireland protected the Gardaí in their failure. The man was acquitted by the judge, not by the jury. The judge gave him a choice. The judge asked him, would he like 8 months in prison, or would he like to join his son, and would he like a few minutes to think about it? He chose to go home. The judge had ordered him to leave the country within 21 days and not return for 10 years. Now that's an order by a judge in the Criminal Courts of Justice. He bought a ticket to go home. He wanted to go home, but he couldn't comply with that order because of deception 6 days earlier by the prosecution. By Shane's voice, how privileged they were, but also by your voice. Deception by the prosecution in the Criminal Courts of Justice. So the man couldn't comply with that order. Eventually he was returned on the 27th of June 2013 to his own country, where he got a new driving licence and left the country.
And can you tell me a little bit about the relationship and the similarities between Sergeant McCabe's case and your own and Shane's case?
Well, we live in the same corrupt Cavan Monaghan area. The Gardaí that are involved in Sergeant McCabe's case are also involved in ours, because one of them had been transferred from Bailieborough to Carrickmacross 2 years prior to Shane's death, and under his watch and his personal failure, Shane got a horrific death. This man was in breach of bail 18 times that we know of, it may be more. Had the guards done their duty, had these individual guards done their duty, this man would not have been at liberty to kill when he did. He would have been in prison. We do know that's black and white. It's fact.
Yeah. And you have a complaint made, obviously, in with GSOC. And can you just tell me a little bit about your experience with GSOC as an institution?
Well, my daughter made, initially when our son was killed, you had to lodge a complaint within 6 months. So my daughter lodged a complaint in January 2012. That's with them now over 5 years. In April the 29th, 2014, Mr. Alan Shatter, former Justice Minister, changed the status of that investigation to a 1025 with GSOC. And basically what that means is that instead of Gardaí investigating Gardaí, it was now internal staff with GSOC investigating the Gardaí. We are waiting. We understand that report is almost complete. They're reviewing it at the moment, so the outcome of that. There's clear evidence there. We shouldn't need 5 years to investigate, but there are 59 admissible complaints of failure by the Gardaí. So that outcome of that report is due out soon. Francis Fitzgerald has evidence of gross wrongdoing, of irregularity in the courts in this case. Nobody is above the law, even those appointed to uphold and administer the law, and Francis Fitzgerald is putting loyalty over honesty. She has failed to put any mechanism in place to address my very serious allegations. She can state, GSOC are looking at this, and GSOC have no effective remedy, and they're only looking at Garda failure. Following the Gearan report, an independent review panel was set up to look at Garda failure because there was allegations from across the country. There were 2 senior counsels appointed. One of those defended the killer of our child. Yet Francis Fitzgerald and the Attorney General were very aware of that because I'd written by registered letter informing them of that. Yet he was appointed, which compromised or could compromise the position of the junior barrister who looked at Shane's case. But we understand under freedom of information, which I've received, that there were the cases that went into the independent review panel, 320, were divided into 4 categories. Ours fell into the first category, was that basically if it was already been investigated elsewhere, let that investigation continue, and ours was already with GSOC. So the barrister in his email asked for an update on how GSOC was getting on, so therefore his hands were tied really and he couldn't do anything. So GSOC are looking at Garda failure, but there's been no mechanism put in place by Francis Fitzgerald on my very serious allegations of irregularities in the court, and it's her duty to address that in the public interest. And
Lucia, if you could just maybe tell me a little bit about why you think this has happened. Why is it the case that this man with so many criminal convictions, that you still have had no justice for Shane, and that this man was simply just left and he was allowed to just leave the country basically?
Well, I think if it's sloppy work, it's very, very sloppy. I mean, how does somebody who has 5 pulse numbers, 5 aliases, that every time he re-offended, the truth wasn't brought to the court? I mean, the judge needs to make an informed decision, so he needs the facts, and the facts should have been that this man was in breach of bail continuously, and not just that he got bail, but he breached it again and again, and the next court wasn't informed of that. So I really think that there shouldn't be guards bringing prosecutions in court. I think we need the solicitors and barristers to do that. They're obviously not capable of doing that. I think he continued to re-offend without consequence. Bail had no legal meaning. What went on, I have no idea. I mean, I brought this information to Stormont. I met with MEPs there, with members of the Northern Ireland Assembly, and the great people up there. Martin McGuinness, an absolute gentleman, lovely man, and an honour to have met him. They were very concerned by the documents they saw. We then went out to the European Parliament and we met a Director General of the Justice, Mr. Olivier Tell, and he looked at the court orders and the documents I had, and he looked in total disbelief. The 10 MEPs were there, 9 of the 10 MEPs sat in, and other members from the Basque area in Spain, and he was very shocked, and he basically summarised up when he looked at the court orders. He said, when a judge makes an order, it should be respected. So we can expect criminals to disobey court orders, but we shouldn't expect our police force to disobey court orders, and that's what has happened in this case. That's why Shane is dead.
Yeah, and can you just tell me what you would like to see happen now
Well, we need a full public inquiry. We need an inquiry into not just the guards, but into the prosecution of this case and the irregularities that took place. In the interest of justice for Shane, I mean, it's the very core of human rights for people to get justice, for the people, our loved ones gone ahead of us, but also for our families. They deserve justice and peace. And also it's in the public interest that there was deception in a court of law and irregularity. That's very much in the public interest, and it's Francis Fitzgerald's duty to address that. I mean, no one is above the law.
Thank you so much, Lucia.
Thank you.